The world is moving on. Corruption spreads in the outer baronies, and in the shadows of once mighty Gilead, the long-ago seat of Arthur Eld, king of all world. Now it is merely the first among equals of the splintered baronies, and the seat of the affiliation. Ancient rituals summon voracious monsters and rapacious demons. Harriers ride with impunity. Spirits of the old machines scream to life and haunt the dreams of honest folk. The darkness has ever been, but it grows bold in these days. Gunslingers, feared knight-errants descended from the worthy bloodline of the Eld, ride forth to discover the source of the growing dark and bring it to battle in the name of the White. This is where our story starts, with Russell Raven Miranda, a gunslinger's apprentice, at the cusp of facing his final test. Howdy, partner. Let me tell you a little story about my friend, Russell Miranda. He's a bondsman's son, offered the chance to be a gunslinger because of the bravery of his father. His father, a common soldier, who saved the life of one of the Deshane family, which, as you know, rule Gilead. He gave his arm to save this man, and in return the man offered to give his father's son, Russell, a chance to join the apprenticeship program of the gunslingers. But Russell doesn't know if he wants to live the life of shootouts with highwaymen and hunting mutants. His parents want to climb the social ladder. For all of Gilead's wonder and beauty, life is very different for the lower classes than it is for the gunslingers and the descendants of Arthur Eld. He's a muscular, physically imposing young man. He can punch a mule unconscious. He's sometimes seen as slow-witted, but he's really just contemplative. Normally calm, he's embarrassed by his explosive temper that he can't control when finally pushed over the edge. Welcome to episode 1 of the Ghostriders of Tahira. This is despite the little intro there, I'm not actually affiliated with Tricube Tales or the fictional Tet Corporation, but I thought it'd look cool to put it on the front. I will be using Tricube Tales as the rule set for this little solo RPG adventure. We find Russ, sometimes known as Raven by his friends because of his curly black locks, watching the last member besides himself of his apprentice class taking their final test. His friend Irving Lowry closes in on the instructor. Russell's not supposed to be there. No one's supposed to watch. But everyone does. Everyone knows where to stand. And the guards, if they happen to see somebody watching, they may or may not do anything about it. Russell can't help but punch his fist in the air as Irving knocks the instructor onto the ground and takes his staff. He knows the words being spoken, though he can't hear them. His friend Irving has just passed his test. His friend Irving is now a gunslinger. And that leaves Russell by himself, the last one. Not only the last one to dare take the test, but also the lowest one for the rest of the gunslingers. They're from families of stock, of wealth, of power. And their fathers are gunslingers too. Hard men with hard calibers. And Russell ponders if he wants to go through that. He ponders even more as his friend Irving makes his way up to where he knew someone would be watching. Russell winces as he sees the split cheek on Irving's face, opened up by a stout blow from their instructor's staff. Congratulations, Irving. Oh, sorry. Congratulations, gunslinger. There'll be none of that piddle-paddle with me. Well, except in front of my pa. You know, he don't take kindly when social graces aren't observed. Irving rubs his cheek, sees the blood, and his hands still trembling. Hey, do me a favor. He looks conspiratorially around and he pulls out a pouch. Roll us each a cigarette. Russell takes the pouch and with practiced motions, tips the tobacco into the rolling paper, licks it, rolls it, hands one to Irving, and then rolls himself one, lights the sulfur, and they sit smoking. That was a pretty nasty fight, Irving. Yeah, it was. I saw myself heading west at least 3 times. If it weren't for a trick that my dad taught me years ago, I wouldn't have got that last trip and tackle in on him. I won and I got the club, but still, I think I got the worst of that deal. But he'll be up and ready. He'll be up and ready for you, Raven. I know you can do this. Raven takes a long draw on the cigarette, looks at his friend, and then looks down at the arena as the instructor pulls himself up and walks away, staggers away to his apartment at the end of the arena. Maybe. But have you ever considered if I actually want to do that? It ain't about wanting. It's about what the affiliation needs. It's about what Gilead needs. Look, I know that your dad doesn't talk at the tables of the lords like ours do, like mine does. But we need all the gunslingers we can get. It's getting dark out there, Raven. And forget about everything else. Once you pass that test, you're a gunslinger, and you've earned the right to wear the irons. So I can spend my time getting in shootouts with highwaymen and muties. If it were just highwaymen and muties, it wouldn't be much to worry about. Look, I can't tell you much, because I'm not even supposed to have heard most of what I know. But the gunslingers, they're riding out. Some new dark power is growing in Midworld. And every gun, every saddle is needed. Look, you cannot go. There's certainly honor in being a squire. Fighting with Gilead, never having taken your test. But I know you've got it in you. I know you've got it in you. Russell smirks and says, well, thank you, gunslinger. Takes a final drag and crushes his smoke. Well, I suspect that your dad will want to hear all about it. Irving shakes his head. My dad will probably already know all about it. When I get home, he'll tell me exactly what I did wrong. He'll probably lash my ears as he's stitching up my face. Oh, damn, he got me good. Now look, if nothing else, think about your family. It's hard to climb the social ladder. It's hard to get up out of the dirt. You pass that test, you become a gunslinger. Your whole family rises with you. Russell thinks back to the time that his mom was too ashamed to wear the nice dress that his father bought with a good portion of their savings. It was a nice dress, beautiful. But as they went to go to one of the balls at Gilead's Hall, she saw some of the other fancy ladies riding by in coaches, and she was too embarrassed. She couldn't go in. Even his father's best was not enough for her. He loves his mom, and he loves his dad. But he's not sure that this is a step that he wants to take. Because exile and shame await those who fail this test. They walk out the west gate. They walk in exile. And whatever status he would have, his family has now, would be lost. Now, Russell looks at his friend and he says, "Congratulations, you did good. I'll think on what you say. But it's time for me to get home." Russell pats Irving on the shoulder and he walks home. He walks from the arena through the lower cities, the lower levels of Gilead, which is what's pictured in the background there, by the way, from, I think, one of the comic books. And he sees his father. And his father somehow already knows that Irving Lowry is now a gunslinger. "Son, it's just you. It's just you left. How long are you going to delay?" "Dad, I don't even know if I want to do it." "You cannot pass up this chance." It's an old argument. They've had it before. Old and familiar. It's an old argument. And one that both are tired of. But it's an important decision to make. I'm using the Tricube Tales system to make the resolutions and rolls for the game. In Gilead, the first part of the arc is going to be how Russell eventually leads up and decides to, or maybe he doesn't decide to, take his test to pass through the archways and be a gunslinger. So I'm going to be using the solo rules for Tricube Tales, which is really a pretty excellent little thing here. I'll just show it to you. One, I promise I won't always be wearing the hat, and I'm trying to make bad Western accents. But here's the Tricube Tales solo rules. And it's basically, it's a bunch of oracles, a bunch of tales. Pretty well together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the random scene. We're going to make I'm going to use this system to make a series of scenes to play to figure out what's going on. So the first thing, the scene is going to involve, obviously, the relationship with his father and whether he decides to go. So the first thing we're going to do for the first random scene, we're going to draw this card. No, you can't see it. Can't see this handy roll 20 card here. Okay, so Jack of Diamonds. I come over and I look at the Jack of Diamonds, and what that tells me is that the advance a secondary subplot and draw again. Well, we don't have a secondary subplot, just yet. So let's go ahead and let's see what that secondary subplot is maybe about. Will give us a die 6 D66 roll. The one that's the furthest left will be the first die here. Okay, 44. Jealousy. Okay. So it's a matter of jealousy in there. And who is jealous? Make it a simple simple question. Is it his father that's jealous? Because his father gave his arm and didn't get anything for it. And even though he wants his son to succeed, not just for his own sake, not just for his own growth and standing, but because he's a father, he wants his son to succeed. I'm going to say it's likely that it's his father, though, that's jealous. It's a 3. Very likely. Okay. So we see here that likely, yes, on a 3+. All right. So we're going to have this scene. We're going to have we're going to add the secondary quest or secondary plot line, and it's going to be conflict between his father and himself, this jealousy. I'm going to go ahead and pause it while I just write some notes here on my paper so I can keep track. All right, so the card he drew was a red card, and whenever it advances a red card, then that is helpful for you. Whatever the result is, it's supposed to be helpful for you. So we'll draw our next card. Not that. Stop it. Okay, Queen of Diamonds. Look, I digitally shuffled this pack. So that's not me. A Queen of Diamonds. So what I'm looking for is a scene, basically a scene to resolve. The Queen of Diamonds. Advance primary subplot and draw again. Okay, so we'll say that well, that's a secondary subplot. You know what? I'm just going to ignore that. We're going to advance that plot. Well, maybe we won't advance it. Maybe we'll see what it's about. Maybe it's something interesting too. Maybe his mom is now jumping into the scene. Let's see what let's see, 1-4. We'll call that a 1-4. Rival. Ah, okay. So as Russell and his father have taken a break from arguing, his mother has kept her tongue as she works at darning the clothes, and a knock is at the door. A knock comes to the door, and it is. Let me pause here. I use this handy fantasy name generator. This is a cowboy and cowgirl name generator. I'm just going to make a random name here. Rudolph Kane. Levi Myers. That actually sounds like a good gunslinger name. Or not necessarily a gunslinger. Is this guy a gunslinger? I'm going to say it's not likely. I'm going to say that this arrival it's unlikely that's a gunslinger, that it is more likely one of his father's friends who heard about it. So I'm going to say it's unlikely that he's a gunslinger. Or better yet, I'm going to say it's likely that he is one of his father's soldier friends. Okay, 5 or higher. And on our little likely, unlikely table, get rid of this die roller. Okay, so yeah. So the door opens, or there's a knock at the door, and his mother walks over and answers the door, and Levi Mayer sits there at the door, grinning at his father. You know, his father has a name. What is his name? Ellis. Ellis Miranda. His father's named Ellis. He grins at Ellis, kind of glances down at his ruined arm, as he's wont to do, because obviously they're not really the best of friends, even though they are old war buddies. He says, I heard that young Irving made his test today, and that your rather big son hasn't tested yet. I thought that you would have him through that gate by now, Ellis. He's taking his time. He can do it. There ain't got no doubt about that. Well, what do you have to say for yourself? So now we're going to draw again. We'll see what kind of scene this plays out to be. That's what I'm trying to come up with. God bless it. All right. 9 of diamonds. I got a bunch of face cards all up in there. You know what? I'm just going to shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle. Yes, shuffle. All right. 3 of diamonds. We're going to go with 3 of diamonds. A 3 of diamonds gives us a scene involves a standard agile challenge. And the scene is based on the arrival. Let's get another idea of what that scene might be. 23. So it's an agile scene. It's a 23. Communication. All right, so Levi Myers, he pouts a pouch, a satchel over his shoulder. It's hanging at his hip. He pats that. And he says, well, I've got a little bit of a note that I'm supposed to give you there, Ellis, but I don't know if I want to. Now, maybe I'll give it to you after your son steps up and lets his balls drop a little bit, takes care of business like he's supposed to. Well, what do you think about that? Why are you coming here causing us this trouble? We haven't fought together in years. Why are you still bothering me? Ellis says, frustrated. Well, because you know what, maybe the jealousy is his father and his friend, whose name I keep forgetting, Levi. You'd think I'd remember that as a cowboy name. His friend Levi, or acquaintance Levi, is also jealous because Levi didn't get a chance to come up out of the common ranks. Because you tripped. And you get your son, your sprat, he gets to go up and be a lord of the land now? You think you're too good for us? You think you're too good for the soldiers who actually do the fighting? Want to be some high and mighty gunslinger's father? Well, Russell, he's had about enough. He's fully grown, he's big enough, and he's going to walk over in front of Levi, and he's just going to say, give us the message if you have it, or be gone. Yeah? You think you can take it? Think you can take me? I'm afraid of your big moose-headed self. So, the scene challenge is an agility challenge. So, Russ, Raven, he's just going to try to snatch the message. Because he, using the rules, he's actually he's a brawny character, so he only gets 2 dice. He's quick, and it's pretty close quarters. So I'm going to say it's a difficulty of 5, and he gets 2 dice. He steps close, he steps nose to nose to this old man. Because even though Russell's big, and he does get into his fair share of scraps because of his anger, because of his temper. All in all, until he gets angry, he's really not confrontational. So he's just going to try to snatch it. He's going to try to snatch it out of that satchel. With a difficulty of 5 and 2 dice. Ooh, look at that. So that's a exceptional success. Using the rules, so he doesn't even snatch it. He slips it out. He looks at Levi in the face, and he kind of stares him down. Levi backs up a little bit, and while he's backing up, Russ has his hand in the pouch and just slips the message out. And he turns and he hands it to his father, and Levi sees it, and he gets angry, and he looks at his pouch, he looks in there, and he says, "You bloody thief!" Russell turns around, and he says, he balls one of his fists. You can see one of his perks. He's got this hammer fists. So he's got very strong, big hands. He curls it up into a fist, and he shoves it right under Levi's nose and says, "You call me that again, and I will break your face. I will pound your face." Well, he's enough. He's already lost. Levi's already lost. Instead of just delivering the message like he was supposed to, his taunting, it's already gone. He lost the fun. So he storms out. And as he's getting ready to slam the door, he says, "I hope you choke. I hope that man shoves his staff right up your ass, you sprat." And he leaves. Russell slams the door after him and turns to his father. Says, "What's it say?" And what does it say? The message is, I'm going to say it's about the, it's about his test. Either maybe some kind of encouragement, maybe a threat. It's an official, it's sealed. So, I'm going to say that it's likely a message from the court of Gilead, maybe the Deshane who offered to help, or who offered Russell a place in the apprenticeship program for his father's service. I'm going to say it's likely that it's something like that. Okay, so it is. It is something from the court of Gilead concerning his test, Russell's test. Let's give it a 2-6 oracle roll. 2-6. And I'm not gonna keep bringing the PDF up. It's just a little too time consuming to fool with that. But I will fool with this little window here, trying to. Oh, no, 2-6. Okay, so 2-6 under the complex question is control. Um, all right. So since it's a red diamond, that's actually is the reds are supposed to be helpful. So I'm going to read that as being encouraging. So this is a message from. Let me go generate a name for this Duchesne. Let's see. I don't necessarily want all the nicknames, but Alva. No. J Duchesne. That sounds good. We'll say he's kind of a Duchesne because he's of the bloodline, but he's not one of the super powerful, but he is influenced. So let me mark this here. I'm going to hit pause because sometimes typing freezes this thing up. His father reads over the note slowly a couple of times. His father's barely literate. Um, the note is from J. Duchesne, who is one of the Duchesne family. He's not one of the major players, but he's close enough and he has influence that he was, well, obviously at least, influential enough to get Russell into that apprenticeship program, which is usually is heavily restricted to bloodline, to important families, families with connections. And his father reads it through a couple of times, then he looks up at his son and says, Jay Duchesne wants to speak with you. He wants to meet you tomorrow at the court. Russell freezes. He's seen Jay Duchesne from a distance. He's seen the gunslingers. He's familiar with who they are because some of them have kids who are in his class or see them around the training grounds. But Jay Duchesne, anyone in the Duchesne family is very important, very connected. He's like, what does he want to see me about? It doesn't say, son. It just says you're supposed to go see him tomorrow. So he turns to Ellis, turns to his wife, Beulah. Beulah, make sure that Russell's best clothes are ready for tomorrow. Well, you're going to go see him, son, and you're going to go hear what he has to say. And you're going to present yourself, and you're going to do us proud. And you won't forget the face of your father. Russell, who is now, because of the news, he's completely nervous and he's forgotten the fight. He's forgotten even having the fight over whether he wants to be a gunslinger or not. Now he's meeting someone very important about the subject, and so he's very nervous. He barely touches his dinner. The house is quiet as they eat their supper, and his mother, Beulah, spends the night darning and cleaning his clothes, making sure that his good suit or his good clothes are in order. And Russell himself lays down to a fitful night's sleep, wondering what Jay Duchesne wants in the morning. And we'll call it right there. We'll call it at 30 minutes. I have a tendency to make these things longer than they need to be. But this is... next time we'll decide what kind of challenge is going to be waiting for Russell, and we'll go through just some notes on how I plan on running this. I'm going to try to stay more narrative in a lot of things. Try to bring the narration to the front. Although I'll go through my stream of consciousness, so to speak, in the decisions that I make as to how I decide to make a ruling, or what I'm going to roll for, why I assign a difficulty level, basic stuff like that. But Tricube Tales is such a easy rule set. Anybody who doesn't know it will figure it out after watching a little bit, if you are interested in watching the further adventures of Russell Miranda, potential gunslinger of Gilead. All right, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.